Hello and welcome to the week ahead from the Financial Times in London. Here's what we're watching this week. The UK election produced a hung parliament, but Brexit negotiations with the EU are still set to begin on schedule. The world's biggest aerospace companies gather in France for the Paris Air Show, one of the highlights of the aviation calendar. Is the eurozone surprise recovery set to continue? We'll be looking at new data for June. And Italian voters head to the polls for the second round of municipal elections. First to the UK. British politics was turned upside down after the snap election, which Prime Minister Theresa May called to secure a bigger majority and a mandate for her vision of Brexit, resulted in a hung parliament. But the clock has been ticking ever since the UK activated the Article 50 two-year divorce clause in March. And negotiations over Britain's exit from the European Union are set to start this week as planned. That's despite the uncertainty over the government's lack of a majority and Mrs May's declining authority. The Europeans are likely to ask for two things from the talks, as our Brexit editor Daniel Dombey explains.
They're going to be asking for progress on their request for up to 100 billion euros gross, and for reassurances and commitments on the plight of the 3 million European Union citizens in the UK whose rights they want to remain as they are enforceable by the European Court of Justice. These are difficult propositions for the UK to sign up to, but unless there's progress over Europeans, then there can't be any prospect of a kind of deal on a future partnership that would involve a trading relationship with the rest of the bloc. These are the difficult issues that face Britain and the EU.
Not only do Brexit talks begin this week, but we've also got an EU summit in Brussels on Thursday and Friday, where Mrs May is likely to set out Britain's position. But questions remain about how much progress can be made when there are doubts that Mrs May may not survive as Prime Minister to see the talks through to their conclusion in 2018. Next to the Paris Air Show. Thousands of people will gather in Le Bourget Airport to exhibit their new products, and thousands more just to look at the new aircraft. The near 10-year boom in aircraft orders slowed last year, a trend that's set to continue in 2017. But as always at this event, all eyes will be on the world's two big aircraft manufacturers, Boeing and Airbus. Here's our industry editor, Peggy Hollinger.
One of the big announcements will be that Boeing has decided to add a new aircraft to its 737 single-aisle family, partly in response to the fact that it's been losing market share to Airbus with its very popular 320 family, in particular the 321. So we expect Boeing to actually announce that it will launch a longer-range version of the 737 MAX family. That'll probably come with a fair number of launch orders, so that will be very interesting. On the Airbus side, I think what we'll see is a farewell to the trillion-dollar aircraft salesman John Leahy, and I think that will be a real moment for the industry. And there's a lot of speculation that John is basically holding back lots of orders that he will unveil at the air show so that he can go out with a big bang.
Now, one of the biggest surprises this year, at least as far as the global economy goes, has been the strength of the eurozone's recovery. For years, the single currency area has been marred by crises and stagnation, but that hasn't been the case in 2017. And we'll get the chance this week to see if that trend's set to continue, as our Frankfurt Bureau Chief Claire Jones reports.
This year we've seen unemployment fall to an 8-year low, and we've also seen a big rise in business confidence and consumer confidence. This week on Friday, we're going to see the release of the Purchasing Managers' Indices for June. These are a key bellwether of how activity is doing and how confident businesses are. And in recent months, they've been close to multi-year highs. I'd expect to see the same this time around too, all of which will add to the sense that the Eurozone's recovery is gaining in strength and breadth.
And finally, will Italian voters breathe new life into its centre-right parties? That's the big question heading into the second round of municipal elections in Italy this week. In the first round, the big news was that the populist and anti-establishment Five Star movement failed to make it to any of the runoffs. Our Rome Bureau Chief, James Politi, has more.
So now we're looking at a more traditional battle between the centre-right, which is a coalition of former Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi and the far-right Northern League, and the ruling Democratic Party led by former Prime Minister Matteo Renzi. Early signs have pointed to the fact that the centre-right could capture control of some of Italy's largest cities, including Genova.
And that's what the week ahead looks like from the Financial Times in London. See you again next time.